Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the new release of the film Nope from Jordan Peele. I actually have a ticket to go see this film tonight, and so I have heard some pretty mixed things about the film. I hear that it is a little bit all over the place as far as the tone of the movie is concerned. However, I do hear that this is by far the better of the films made by Jordan Peele, especially when it comes to the issue of race, as the other two films that he has made, which would be films like Get Out and films like Us, have focused very heavily on it to the point of it being almost distracting and preachy. Apparently, at least according to a good friend, they said that this is not a film that does the same thing, which makes me very, very happy. But what is the box office looking like for this film? Also, what is looking to be the third weekend box office drop for the film Love and Thunder, Thor Love and Thunder? We'll talk about that today as well. Before we get any further though, please make sure you smash that like button, not that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. I have no idea how I got those words out still, but let's go ahead and look to first the film Nope from Jordan Peele from Universal. It is expected to make a $55.5 million $55.5 million opening weekend domestically, coming out at over 3,700 screens. So a pretty good start for that movie. I will say this, though. This is not going to be the best opening weekend, at least domestically, based off of the current numbers for a Jordan Peele release. This is actually something that is still won by, or the crown is still worn by the film Us back in 2019, which had an opening weekend of $71.1 million, which I find to be quite interesting. The film Nope, at least to me, seems already, just based off of the trailers, to be a little bit more, I guess, universal in approach. The fact that it's being portrayed by the trailers, at least, to be a horror story, to be a sci-fi alien invasion type story as well, which I feel like would probably make people more interested in going to see it. It's just interesting to me that so far, at least based off of the current numbers as they stand, it looks like Nope will actually end up being the second highest grossing opening weekend for a Jordan Peele film, as it is going to be somewhere between the film Us and the film Get Out, his first film, which opened to $34.1 million. So it's still definitely higher than what his original film, what the first film he did was, but I would say looking at the overall trends of it starting off with 34.1 million, going up with Us to 71.1, dropping back down to 55, that's not a very good sign at the very least when it comes to his specific movies and people who are watching his specific movies, because it means that he's losing some audience here, or at least is being projected to be losing some audience here. And when you think back especially to the trailer Us and how weird and ethereal it was, it definitely did not come across, even just from the trailer, as a movie that most people would want to go see. Films like Nope, or a film like Nope, in the way in which at least the trailer is trying to tell the story and trying to sell the story, I don't know, it just seems like it's a little bit more universal, but apparently the numbers aren't playing out that way. I don't know if it's because maybe people have seen Get Out, have seen Us, and said, yeah, you know what, I think Jordan Peele has a lot of talent, but unfortunately he lets himself get distracted by some things that I don't really care about. It could be that. It could also just be the fact that some people maybe just don't like the alien story, or the alien dynamic that's added into this story. From what I've been told, the trailer really doesn't give a whole lot of the plot away, but I've also been told that it's being marketed as a horror film, and other than maybe one or two moments, it actually isn't much of a horror film at all. So I'll be giving my own thoughts about that tonight when I do my instant review after getting out of the theater, and I will be able to let you all know about that, especially if you care about the different genres that are being presented here. But it is interesting to me that this film is not seemingly going to do as well, at least based off of the current projections. So $55.5 million, not a terrible opening for a film with its cost of about $68 million as far as the production budget is concerned. At least that's what is being reported over on its Wikipedia page. However, I will point out and stress that this Wikipedia page and the budget do not actually have a citation, do not actually have a source cited, and so therefore take that with a giant grain of salt, because this is something that typically I look at to say, okay, where are they getting this number from? Are they getting it from one of the big Hollywood media coverage rags, right? Are they getting it from Hollywood Reporter? Are they getting it from Deadline? This one is just claiming it's $68 million, which makes sense to me because it is moving up in the progression of the cost of his films, which again makes total sense. His first film, Get Out, cost $5.1 million. These are all adjusted for inflation. Us cost $20 million. Nope, costing $68. Makes a lot more sense, especially with spaceships being involved. I'm sure a lot of visual visual effects are going to be in this film that have not been in the previous ones. So it's a number that sounds about right to me, but it also means his break-even point is going to be that much higher. But based off of that $55 million opening, I think that he's probably going to be, and the film is going to be in a pretty good position to make its money back, especially if there is good word of mouth for the movie, which of course is always the big question mark, because especially when it comes to Jordan Peele movies, the fact that the other films I feel have had mixed word of mouth because some people have really liked it because of its commentary on race, whereas people like me have saw it and said, oh my goodness, this guy has such talent, he's such a good filmmaker, and it's so sad that he's getting so obsessed with race, and he's allowing it to kind of drive some of the narratives in his storytelling, and it becomes preachy, especially in the first two films that he made. So to hear that that's not in this film makes me a lot more excited to go see it. But then again, it might also be a turnoff for others who might like that dynamic in his other films. Thor: Love and Thunder, coming in its third week of release, is expected to make another $20.4 million and to drop another 56%. So we'll, of course, be following this number here to see exactly how close to 56%. Does it get higher than that? Where does this compare, especially to the weekend comparison between it and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? That's the film that I've found a lot of similarities to as far as its drops and as far as its numbers are concerned, though this film is well far behind where Doctor Strange started off, which is the reason why I think this film capping out somewhere around $700 million worldwide seems to make the most sense to me. What I do find most interesting, though, is after 3 weeks of release, the film making $20.4 million, you have then a scenario where Minions, which is projected to make $18.5 million, could actually end up making as much or even more than Thor: Love and Thunder, which is just yet another reminder about how poorly the word of mouth is going for Thor: Love and Thunder. And even though it is right now still on pace to be able to hit its break-even point and make a little bit of profit, to say that the film's going to cap out around $700 million, if you actually look at it within the context of the entire MCU, of the entire Thor franchise, and of the films that have even come out this year, it is not a good sign going forward, especially when you have Minions, which has been out for 19 days, and Thor: Love and Thunder, which has been out for 12 days. So Minions having an extra week of release on it to be able to, in its now, fourth week of release, for Minions going into its fourth week of release, to be able to have 18.5 million versus 3 weeks of release and 20.4 for Thor: Love and Thunder, I think that this should hopefully show you why they should be a little concerned with these types of drop-offs, because whereas Minions has had very strong holds from week to week, and by next week, if the holds continue at this level, will easily be able to beat Thor: Love and Thunder and take its spot back at the number 2 spot. Most likely, you also are able to see then how far Love and Thunder has been going as well. The fact that a film that's a week behind is doing as well and could potentially even do better at the same time or at the same point of this release is interesting to say the least. Where the Crawdads Sing is expected to have a 44% drop in its second week of release. Again, $9.6 million because of a lower budget for the movie. It's in a pretty good position to make its money back. Top Gun Maverick continuing to hang out, so be the first time that it's dropped out of the top 4, I believe. It's been in the top 3 since its release. It finally hit, I think, the number 4 spot this past weekend. And so, therefore, it's not all that surprising because the film's been out for well over a month at this point. And so it's really not all that surprising. But the fact that it's still making $9.3 million, another 24% hold, getting up to $635 million, now surpassing the domestic box office for The Last Jedi as well, by the way. So shout out to Paramount and shout out to Top Gun Maverick for continuing to show that, hey, if you make a good film and you make a film that people actually want to see, they will go out and see it in droves and be able to set these kinds of records and beat much really, really bad movies that somehow made a lot of money, like as the case with Top Gun, like as is the case with Star Wars The Last Jedi. Elvis is still hanging around as well, another $6.5 million, another strong hold. Again, this is a film that, even though its ability to break even is still more difficult than not, it is definitely moving in the right direction. Paws of Fury expected to drop 43%. Not a terrible drop, however, because of a very weak opening weekend of around $6 million or so. Not a good look for Paramount. So while it's having success, Paramount is, of course, with films like Top Gun Maverick, not having nearly as much success with Paws of Fury. Jurassic World Dominion still hanging around as well. The Black Phone is going to be hanging out. And Marcel the Shell with the Shoes On from A24 continues to be a part of A24's new release strategy of starting off very, very small, trying to get the word of mouth going and hopefully letting that be successful. Doesn't seem that this is, though, going to be as successful of a move for them as what we saw with Everything Everywhere All at Once. It worked for that movie. It doesn't look like it's working for this film as much. This one definitely seems to be more so geared towards younger audiences, at least based off of the fact that the main character is an animated little shell. So I don't necessarily think that this strategy is going to be nearly as effective, and it doesn't seem to be. But hey, A24 did surprise me with Everything Everywhere All at Once, so we'll have to wait and see what those numbers end up actually being. As I mentioned, Nope is being projected to have cost $68 million. And so if we go to my website, ombreviews.com, again, check out my website, ombreviews.com, if you want to be able to do some box office charting and follow to see where films currently are and where films likely will be. With that $68 million budget, it means that the film needs to make around $170 million in order for it to break even. Now, because the film is expected to be somewhere between Get Out and Us in its opening weekend, the chances of it getting to that number are very high. We look to the film Get Out, and it was able to make $257.9 million worldwide. Got a lot of very positive word of mouth for Get Out. I would say a lot more positive than Us. Us really had a much more negative word of mouth campaign because the movie itself, other than it being very similar to Get Out as far as its focus on race relations and really race baiting in a lot of ways, Us was such a weird story on its, even at the most basic level. A lot of people walked out of it very confused, or even just like, oh, okay, that wasn't very good, I don't want to recommend it. So even though it had a much stronger opening weekend than Get Out, because of its word of mouth, it dropped off pretty quickly, and so that's the reason why Get Out actually ended up even with a much smaller opening, because it had stronger holds, it had a stronger word of mouth campaign, was able to get to a higher number when you adjust those numbers for inflation. So I think Nope is likely to end, at least based on the numbers that we're seeing. I wouldn't be surprised if the film's able to do 200 million or so worldwide. It could be more than that, it could be less, but we'll have to wait and see what the actual numbers are. But I will say that based off of the current projections, to have a right now current projection to make $55 million in your opening weekend is a very good sign, because it's right between Us and Get Out. If the word of mouth is as good as Get Out, then we could see the number even come up higher than both of these films. Or if the film has a similar word of mouth as Us did, then we could also see it come in a little bit lower as well. But we'll be following these numbers, we'll be following and comparing these films, as these are all Jordan Peele films, and I feel that his audience is a very specific group of people, and based off of the opening weekend, it doesn't look like he has grown that audience all that much, at least based off of the numbers as we currently see them. But what are y'all's thoughts about it? Do you think the film Nope is going to be any good? Again, I have some high hopes for it, at least. I have some high hopes. I think that has a lot of potential. Obviously, it does have to make quite a bit of money in order to break even, but it seems to be the amount of money where it should easily be able to get to this point based off of the performance of his other movies. And if this film especially has a much more broad appeal to it and is not as focused on race especially, then it might end up doing a lot better with a wide variety of audiences versus more specific ones. So what are y'all's thoughts about that? Also, what do you think is going to be the end result for films like Where the Crawdads Sing, or also the number for Thor: Love and Thunder? Again, it's seeing some pretty massive drops from week to week. I still think that making $51 million is definitely in the cards in a more likely scenario, but we'll have to wait and see exactly where this film stacks up, especially against Doctor Strange, which I do think it is a good comparison and a good film to bring up in that comparison. So let me know your thoughts about that and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, slap that fire button. Honestly, again, I'll have a review out for Nope later tonight after I come out of the theater. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to my July Patreon subscribe star and locals members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. First starting off with Brandon, let's go Brandon, Chris from the 80s, who you can check out over on YouTube, Garrett Searles, Hymir Ari Hymason, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Father, Luca Illick, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can also check out over on his YouTube channel as well. Congrats on recently getting to 1,000 subscribers. Rosetta Allen, who you can also find on YouTube as well. Stan Andrian and Miss Martin Muses, who also has her own YouTube channel. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the platform of Patreon. We also have my Subscribe Star members, Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alice McCarthy Jr., shout out to you, good sir, and continue that awesome recovery that you are doing. Dean Heiss, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. ZK-Man, you can find out over and follow him on Twitter as well. And we also have my locals members. We have of course, the lovely and amazing Minnesota hockey fan. How about a hockey player? UAB UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win, and Robert Barnes, as well as Brett D90. Thank you very much. And my last supporter, of course, is the amazing Tina B, Empress of the Universe, one of my mods on the channel. Check out her new show with my other Valkyrie, Stephanie B, on her channel, Tina B's channel, which is called Soup to Nuts. Go check that out because it is pretty awesome and fun content. Anyway, that is going to be it for all of my Keeper of the Bifrost level members and above. If you want your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, please make sure that you check out the top link of the video description. It is w.lo, the Willow link, as I like to call it, and you can find my Patreon, Subscribe Star, etc., where you can get not only shoutouts, but also access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger every single month, and also access to giveaways of Blu-rays, 4Ks, etc., all that good stuff. Check that out in the video description. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.